Welcome back to WSB Morning News with Gary Sutton. Coming up next at 8:05, Dr. Alex Del Carmen is an executive director and professor of the School of Criminology and the Criminal Justice and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University. We've had a lot of mass shootings here in the last couple of years. So what might be stimulating some of those mass shootings? Something maybe called media contagion? Dr. Alex Del Carmen will tell us all about it next on 8:05 on WSBA Morning News. And still out ahead, it's your turn to make the call later on this morning. Anything on your mind, you bring it up today here on WSBA. WSBA News Time, 8 o'clock. And, you know, we've had so many mass shootings that have occurred in the past several years here, not only in this country but around the world. And many people are asking why. Obviously, terrorism is involved, but there are other things involved, too, aside from the normal extremist terrorism that we think about. With us this morning is a gentleman who takes a look at this. His name is Dr. Alex Del Carmen. He's the executive director and professor at the School of Criminology, Criminal Justice and Strategic Studies at Tarleton State University. And why are mass shootings happening right now? There's something called media contagion that's being discussed out there. And Dr. Del Carmen joins us here on WSBA. Dr. Del Carmen, great to have you on the show. Good morning to you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me this morning.
Doctor, you know, a lot of people are obviously trying to figure out, you know, we hear people about saying, well, let's take away guns, let's find out ways to put more laws down, let's do this, let's do that. And yet something called media contagion has come up here. And I want you to talk a little bit about what media contagion is and how it might be a contributing factor to a lot of the mass shootings that we have, not only in our country, but maybe around the world.
Right. So basically the premise of the studies that have just been released a few days ago regarding media contagion are that essentially people mimic what they see. And so by being exposed via the media to mass shootings, you have people that may not be mentally well or individuals that want to get attention publicly or nationally. And by virtue of that, they go out there and replicate, the mass shootings that they watch on TV live.
Jeff Johnson and Andrew Joy are the two who published this a study out of Western New Mexico University. And they call it media contagion. And one of the most startling of Johnson and Joy's finding is that the more tweets that occur about a mass shooting, the higher the chance of another gun massacre occurring very soon after. That was a startling look as I was reading this study.
Right. So the idea is that people are tuned into what's going on. It's almost like you're watching a movie all at the same time, and people are reacting to a violent scene or reacting to a scene where the adrenaline is flowing among the actors or actresses. And so by virtue of that, people are tweeting, people are on Facebook, people are on social media at the time that they're watching something live. And by virtue of that, it's almost like you're putting something in front of a child right in front of them, and they're not deviating their attention from what they're looking at.
Well, we're even seeing situations where they tailor it to meet that particular need. For example, I remember the Orlando shooter made sure that he sent out a message so that people would see that on social media. I mean, that has become their pure audience, hasn't it?
Right. So, and in addition to that, it's almost like we want to go in a 4D kind of mode. In other words, we want to not only watch it, not only hear it, but we also want to feel it. And so the idea is these mass shooters, individuals that are inflicting terror, they want to be so relevant to people's lives that they want to make sure that every single person watching it feels that they have been personally touched by what they're looking at.
You know, I saw the numbers. If after a school shooting, at least 10 out of every million tweets mentions the incident, the likelihood that there will be another school shooting increases to 50% within 8 days after the initial violence and to 100% within 35 days afterward, according to their paper and the study that they found at Western New Mexico University.
Right, and so essentially what happens is people are beginning to see that there's a correlation, as we call it in statistics, that is a relationship between the involvement on social media and what people end up doing out there. Let me caution, though, all your listeners that for the most part, most of us that are actually watch a crime or we're watching it live don't end up replicating that particular crime. It's always easy to blame the media for it, but the reality is there have to be consumers of the media in order for the media to be relevant.
So why would you want to go out and replicate a crime like that? I mean, most of us stand in abhorrence to that kind of thing in a society, and yet there's this idea that you have these copycats. I mean, is it How is that different from before? Is it the fact that we are such a visual world, that we do have up-to-the-moment stuff that with the 24/7 media and with the ability to socially connect on social networks, that maybe that has really contributed to it today in a way that we never saw before, because we didn't see this stuff up to the moment, and we only heard about it and maybe kind of dismissed it right away?
That's exactly right. And so in the past, remember, on the attack on Pearl Harbor, it was not viewed or known about until a day or two later on the mainland. And so by virtue of that, now we are in an informational age where things happen in real time. So people have apps that basically show breaking news. People at airports stop at the gate to watch what's going on live. People are listening to the radios. You can carry now a live feed on an airplane while you're flying somewhere. So by virtue of that, you are now plugged in to what's going on across the globe. And in a matter of a few seconds, we can watch a terrorist attack in Paris. We can watch a terrorist attack next door with the same frequency, H.D. capability as if we were watching it live. And so it brings it to us in a live feed, and people react to it emotionally right away.
So you kind of get rubbernecking social networking, right? I mean, people that are watching the car crash, so to speak, and I won't say enjoying it, but are interested in it, and you do that on the social network, and then it's what you do with that information from there that really provides this media contagion we're talking about.
Exactly, and so what happens is most of us actually consume the information, reflect on it, maybe even be saddened by it, and then move on about our day. But there are those individuals that actually watch it, are exposed to it, and then they turn around and want to replicate it, or quite frankly, they begin to plan their next attack, meaning that they think, oh, you know what, that's a pretty great idea, what I just saw right now, so I'm going to go do something like that so that I can gain the recognition historically and I can matter in people's lives. And so for that 5 seconds of fame, they end up doing, crazy things. We saw that a few days ago on that individual climbing the Trump Tower in New York.
Right. Jennifer Johnston, one of the 2 people to publish a study, said that the rise in gun massacres began after the year 2000, when the average of 2 to 3 mass shootings per year climbed to 20 such incidences in 2015, a 3-fold increase over a 15-year time span. And she said the evidence points to the idea that mass violence is likely contagious, she said. She said, now we have some pretty solid evidence that it is. There is a clear pattern that is not due to chance. Your thoughts about that? Is she right on?
Well, I think what she's trying to make the point of is that, we seem to not get off this topic of shootings and killings and all of that, and by virtue of that, it has become the center focus of our national attention. And so by virtue of that, it makes sense that people would actually begin to then pay attention to that and want to replicate it to some degree. It's easy to say that, although I would argue that, the media has always played a role in informing the public, and there are individuals that are simply not well mentally that will replicate the violent instances that are there. To that end, I don't think this is a new finding per se. Perhaps what is interesting about this study is the fact that now we see that social media actually plays a significant role and perhaps accelerates the fact that there are those that want to imitate violent crime.
It's amazing. We have a very visual society today, but I think that barn door's already been opened and the horse is out of the gate. How do we get it back in, Doctor?
Well, I don't think we can. I mean, the reality is that social media is going to expand. We've seen the impact of social media in the Middle East, how it's inspired people to rebel, to launch revolutions, to topple down regimes. And so by virtue of that, I don't think we can put the genie back in the bottle at this point. We've got social media that is affecting our lives on a daily basis. People end up dating through social media. They end up, finding homes in social media. I don't think that's ever going to end. And what we are going to see, however, is an increase of attention and perhaps interest among individuals that are twisted in their minds to go out there and replicate crime as more crime is being visualized through social media.
Dr. Del Carmen, I really appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you for having me.
Take care, and we'll talk again very soon. Dr. Alex Del Carmen with us this morning on the media contagion that might be helping to cause more and more of these mass shootings. When we come back on WS.